Welcome to the Bushido gang. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's AttackonSamurott, bringing you all some Pokemon Sword and Shield tournament review stuff. So this is a review from my tournament in my Discord, the Bushido gang. So I do a lot of tournaments in my Discord, and this is actually the second tournament that I've had in my Discord. So this one is for the current Sword and Shield OU metagame. There were about 10 people that participated in the tournament. However, 3 of them actually had like 3 of them did leave the tournament, but we were still able to get the games out the way, and the games honestly were pretty good. I'd say that in my Discord I have some pretty competent SSOU players, including myself. So I was pretty happy about the outcome of the tournament, actually. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll be going over some of the matches that actually went down, including the finals match as well, which just happened yesterday. So yeah. So if you guys are hyped for it, make sure to leave a like and also comment on the video. Question of the day, I guess, would be, if you were going into a Sword and Shield OU tournament, what Pokemon would you build around for that tournament? Like, what team would you use, or what Pokemon would you use for your, dang it, I guess what Pokemon would you build around for a tournament? That sounds better. What Pokemon would you build around for a tournament? I think that actually sounds like a really good question. So yeah, let me know what your answer is in the comments. So first game we're gonna be talking about is Theo, or I'm just gonna say Theo, even though it, because the way it's looking, it looks like it's Theo, so I'm gonna say Theo. So we got Theo versus Ed. Also goes by Edster. So Ed, so looking at the matchup here, it honestly looks pretty good for both of them, honestly. Ed, like for Ed's side, defensively Theo can't really handle Magearna that well, especially if it's going to be a Specs Magearna. Specs Magearna can just body through a lot of things very easily, especially like this core of Pex, Hippo, and Corviknight. Just a couple of Volt Switches, and even a prediction catching the Hippo will just be able, or will just open up Magearna to the point where it just Flare Cannon / Volt Switch everything down. So if it can get a Flare Cannon prediction on the Hippo, then Hippo's dead, and then it just kind of easy for him to clean up whatever money he has left. So yeah, he has that going for him. The Dragon Ball also puts on some pressure too. Kind of, depending on what kind of variant it is. If it's like a Hex variant, then you can potentially burn some things as well. Potentially burning Hippo, burning Corviknight, burning the Pex as well could help quite a lot with hexing through his team, or hexing through Theo's team. The double bro combo right here could also be pretty dangerous as well, since Theo can't really handle it that well. Yeah, he can't really handle the double Future Sight core that well. So Ed has a lot of tools here you can take advantage of against Theo, while Theo's team actually can put on a lot of pressure as well with Coco plus Cinderace. Especially if the Coco is going to be Specs. Defensively, Ed only has one answer to that, and that's going to be the Slow King, and he's going to have to play Slow King as effectively against Coco as he can. So yeah, outside that, like, again, Coco just kind of breaks down everything, especially once King is gone. There's not much that Ed can do around the Coco. Cinderace is also a pretty big deal. It's also a pretty big deal, especially if Bro goes down, then Cinderace really just like has no switching. Ed has no switching for Cinderace at that point. So Ed has to keep that in track. Toxapex defensively can take on Can take on some things pretty well. Again, Dragapult, for example, can take that on very well. Slowking. It's just a very, like, well-rounded mon, and just taking defensive hits on both the physical and the special side. Zarude could be dangerous, actually. Looking at his team, or looking at Theo's team. If it's a bulk up variant, bulk up could definitely be dangerous. Especially if the Magearna's gonna be offensive. Offensive Magearna can pretty much get worn down pretty quickly by a bulk up variant of Zarude. Doing around, like, I think 40% after a +1 power whip, or after a +1 bulk up. And then going into a power whip, that could do around like 40% or something. So that's not bad damage, definitely. Like, Zarude can definitely put damage down. But yeah, defensively though, Ed is gonna have to use Magearna to some extent in that way. Hippo, again, Hippo can take on Crook very well, and yeah, that's pretty much that. Corviknight, again, it's just gonna be like the pivoting mon, being able to defog and touch potentially. Defensively, it does stop the Crocodile at least, and potentially the Torn if it's not rocking Heat Wave. Outside that though, that's all they can really cover. So now that we've broken down what these mons are capable of, let's actually dive into the game. So turn 1, we got Dragapult versus Tapu Koko. Okay, so in this position, this is actually not a bad, like, this is actually a pretty good lead. This is a very strong lead for Ed. It's a strong lead because it forces Theo to either attack or hard switch. He has to switch into Zarude, or even go into Toxapex. Like, he has two relatively good answers. I mean, the best answers are right here for Dragapult. So what Ed could do is he could go for a Shadow Ball anyway, predicting, or go for a Shadow Ball anyway in case Koko stays in, which is highly unlikely because, again, it's early in the game. Or I mean, it's turn 1. He's most likely gonna go for a U-turn, or maybe have like Will-O-Wisp to catch a Corviknight or something. So, or catch the Corviknight. So let's see. So Ed is going to go for the U-turn on the Peck switching, as Theo is gonna go for Pecks there. And comes Magearna. So Magearna, like I said earlier, if it specs Magearna, Volt Switch is going to do a lot, especially in the electric terrain. Like, Theo's own terrain is actually going to benefit Ed in the long run because, again, a boosted Volt Switch in the terrain is it's pretty scary, actually. So Ed can definitely put like massive pressure with Volt Switch right now. So let's see if he's going to go with that play. Goes for Ice Beam instead. The Ice Beam play, I don't think was really a good play in my opinion. It didn't really cover much. Again, from Theo's perspective, Magearna being in here is dangerous for him because he doesn't have a switching for it. He has to just stay in here with Pex potentially, on maybe like a Flare Cannon if he would go for it, making a prediction, or again like just the over prediction. But this Pex, like normally Pex, at least how it is right now, Pex is mostly physically defensive. But there are some variants that are, that can opt to be Spadef as well. So Volt Switch, will do a lot anyway. It'll almost kill this actually. It'll do up to like 80%. So that's very good damage. From Ed's perspective, keeping this thing as low as possible, because that's what you want to do against Toxapex. This thing, you don't want this thing staying around too long, because if it does, it can really just start knocking you off early, getting rid of items, and then you can't really do much from that point. So again, if I were Ed, I would have went for the Volt Switch here, got some initiative going, and then I could have went into maybe Torn, or even a Crocodile on a knockoff, depending. But the Ice Beam comes down and Magearna gets knocked off, which in hindsight it's not that bad. This getting knocked off honestly isn't the worst thing. It definitely could have been a lot worse than this. Well, actually no, this probably was like it's bad, but it's not like horrendous, Magearna can still switch up moves, which is good. So Volt Switch comes down and it does 48%. So yeah, if it did 48% with terrain up, then I'm pretty sure that this Toxapex was very specially defensive. So it probably would have taken up to 80%, which is still very good damage though. So again, I think Ed should have went with that. And because he didn't go with that, Knockoff's going to come down and knock off the Torn. So again, this would have been better if if Ed got more damage on the Pex instead. But now Theo has an advantage and can just knock off the Torn here early. So Torn's gonna get knocked off, and he's gonna have to switch into Coco on a potential Hurricane. But Ed's gonna go for the knockoff back on the Coco, which is actually a really good play because that removes the choice specs. And also that means that Coco won't be doing as much damage to Slowking, as you're going to see Thunderbolt doing 20%, because this is very bulky. But unfortunately, Slowking is paralyzed there, which means that now Toxic Specs is going to be able to outspeed it, which means that Knockoff is going to come down early, and that means that Slowking potentially lose its AV. So yeah. So here comes Cinderace now. So Cinderace comes in on the Flamethrower, which I don't really agree with. I think maybe Scald would have been better here, because Scald, you know, just pressures a lot harder than Flamethrower does. But I guess maybe he was predicting Corviknight to come in on a potential Sledge Bomb. Maybe that's why Ed went for the Flamethrower there. I definitely think that maybe Skull would have been a little bit better if he did have it, or even a Future Sight too. Future Sight also would have put some pressure on him as well. But yeah, so Flamethrower comes down. He's gonna go into the Bro. So Ed goes Bro, and Cinderace U-turns and gets a pretty good chunk of damage from that U-turn. So here comes Coco, and Ed has to double back into Croak or even Slowking. Goes into Croak there. So Croak is actually a really aggro play. And it seems like just based off Ed's team, he doesn't have a rocker unless the Crocodile's the rocker, which is possible, definitely possible. But let's see what Ed's gonna do. So he has to switch out here on the potential Earthquake, and Earthquake does come down from Ed. So Ed goes for the Earthquake there. It brings in Dragapult on the U-turn from Corviknight. So Corviknight's gonna switch out and bring in Zarude. So with Zarude being in here, again, Ed has to go for U-turn. Zarude running Choice Scarf doesn't make any sense, especially in the current OU metagame. It doesn't really make too much sense. If Zarude right now in OU is more like a bulk up variant, so the bulk up variant just has a lot more to offer than like a Choice Scarf variant, if anything. So I know I didn't really need to mention that, but I just wanted to say it just in case you guys are thinking that, oh, bringing in Zarude means that Ed could do something here, maybe, I don't know, but he's gonna make the prediction on the potential U-turn, and here comes the U-turn back on the Corviknight. So Corviknight's gonna U-turn here and brings in the Magearna. So Ed's gonna try and put some pressure again. Again, he has to go for the Volt Switch here, and he actually goes for Trick instead, which is not bad. Again, that is not a bad play. It's definitely not a bad play. However, well, no, it's not a bad play, because again, Volt Switch covered. I mean, if he did Volt Switch there, I mean, he would have been down a little bit, because then, you know, Hippo would have gotten up 3 rocks. Excuse me, but removing the Rocky Helmet does kind of help, because that at least allows Crocodile to not take any chip damage from the helmet, or even like U-turn from or even you know, getting chipped by U-turning with the Dragapult or even the Torn. So Trick isn't bad, definitely not a bad play. Now Ed is gonna go into Torn as Hippo goes for the rocks there. So Theo's gonna take advantage of that, get the rocks up. Ed's gonna go for the defog here, and the Torn is going to get Toxic from the Hippo. So that Toxic is really bad. It means that Ed can't really use Torn as defensively as he wanted to. So now he's gonna have to try and like try to preserve the Torn as best he can, because actually Torn is pretty good here too. It's good against the Ace and also against the Zarude as well, since it outspeeds both of them. Of course, barring like, well, no, it doesn't really matter. Cinderace can't even kill Torn with Sucker Punch. So yeah, so Ed has to go for a Hurricane or just Hard Switch. He goes for the Hurricane there, which is good, and actually does a really good chunk as well. So Hurricane's going to come down, and he is going to get a hit off from the Confusion, so that's not too bad here. Goes for the Hurricane again, and doesn't get the roll, and Hippo's going to live on 1%, while Torn is getting smacked by Toxic. So Theo has to he could do like 1 or 2 things. He already has rocks up, so he's like leading in the hazard department. So he could sack Hippo, but I feel like he wants to keep it around because it's still a Volt Switch immunity, and also he still needs it for the Crocodile as well. So I believe that Theo is going to take the risk and just keep it around for later for a sack. So yeah, U-turns there from Ed, and now in comes Crocodile. So again, like I said, Crocodile can put some pressure on him now with again Earthquake. And again, if this Crocodile does have rocks, he could go for it right now too. Which is kind of odd to run rocks on the set like this, but let's see what he goes for. He does go for rocks there. Again, it's not a bad play, but I think Theo was expecting a sack. So again, if Ed did attack, then Hippo would have went down, and then that would have opened up his Zarude, and then Zarude would have just set up a bulk up, and then that would have been kind of rough for Ed to play around. I mean, he still could have played around it with the Magearna, because Magearna can take the hit, and plus with the Rocky Helmet being tricked from the Magearna after the Hippo got tricked, he still could have been able to pressure the Zarude had he still attacked it, because I think Theo would have had to make the play to because again, I'm saying that if Ed did attack the Coco switching, Hippo went down, then I would have brought in Corviknight, and then Corviknight could have U-turned around a little bit and would have put Theo in a position to bring in either Cinderace or Coco. I know I'm talking like a lot about that, but just bear with me though. Him getting the rocks up isn't bad, but it definitely puts Ed down a little bit more because this Hippo's gonna be back at full again because of the slack off. So Bro has to come in here, and here comes the slack off. So now that Bro's in here, this actually still isn't bad for Ed. He could Scald here potentially. Hippo doesn't usually run a lot of speed. Neither does a Slowbro. So Hippo can potentially still outspeed it. But Skull just push a lot of pressure on Theo anyway. So if I were Ed, I would go for the Skull here because again, you want the most amount of pressure on whatever you can get, or whatever you can get pressure on. So let's see what Ed goes for. He actually goes for Teleport there. I'm assuming he did that predicting maybe Zarude, so I can understand why he did that, but I feel like at this point in the game, you might as well just get the damage off because you're already like behind by quite a lot. Granted, it doesn't look like it, but he's still quite a bit behind. Again, Torn's toxic, Magearna's Choice Specs is gone, and Bro's toxic as well. So he's not really in the best position at this moment. Well, Theo, in terms of like where he's at right now, Hex can come back because of regen. Corviknight hasn't gotten chipped yet. Coco, with its Choice Specs being gone, is weaker, but it can still switch up moves and potentially roost it up to keep its recovery going. And Cinderace hasn't really revealed itself yet, besides going for U-turn. Again, Hippo just can wall Crocodile since it is physically defensive. So with Magearna being in here, what Ed can do is go for the Ice Beam. So he does go for the Ice Beam there and knocks out Hippo. So Theo finally gives up the Hippo there, which is great. Now Theo gets a free switching into Ace, and Ace can put some damage down, especially with that Toxic down too. Fireball coming down as well, doing 18%. So 18% plus the Toxic coming down too. Definitely going to keep him lower. Has to go into Magearna here as Theo goes for the Electro Ball, which is crazy. Like that, when I saw Electro Ball the first time I was looking at this match, I was just like, yo, that is sick. But it actually kind of makes sense against with this team. Also my music. My music, bruh. I'll just lock this one in, because why not? I know I usually have like a different song when I'm doing recordings, or when I'm doing recordings for like tournament matches, but I feel like I can just change it up with this one since there's just so many games to cover. So yeah, again, Electro Ball comes down, doing 13%, so that keeps Magearna a little bit lower, but still able to put pressure down on Theo, again, on the Pex and even on the Corviknight and on the Zarude as well. But Ed has to switch out here and go back into Bro, but he actually goes Torn instead on the Powerball, and there goes Torn. I don't really agree with that play. Maybe he thought he'd U-turn, which is fair to make, but I don't know. I don't really agree with that play sacking Torn. Um, he still could have went bro, and he still could have slacked off to keep it healthy. But I guess that would also invite in this Rude anyway. So I guess he had to make the sack there, which means he could go into Crook right now. Yeah, so he does go Crook, and pretty much Crook right now is revealing itself to be Choice Scarf. So now Theo's gonna play off that and has to go into either Corviknight or go into Zarude. Again, Zarude is not a bad play at all. Zarude pretty much at this point, especially with Torn being gone, Zarude is becoming a lot more dangerous against Ed. So let's see what happens here. So yeah, there is the Zarude right there, and Ed is gonna go for the CC, which is a crazy play, a very crazy play. So I guess he was predicting the Zarude, which again is a little bit insane. Again, either Corviknight would have Corviknight or Zarude were better here. But I guess Theo wanted to make the aggro play to go for Zarude instead in case he went for Earthquake. Which again, Earthquake is also a very viable option. But yeah, with that CC coming down, this does mean that Zarude, is gonna die in 2 hits now. It can only get off maybe one move if any, or he'll just have to sack the Zarude anyway, which I mean he could freely do. So let's see, because again Zarude is weakened now. He actually does keep it, so he's gonna keep it and go back into Pex, which again Pex takes nothing from CC. So now Ed has to switch out and go into somebody else to take a knockoff or a Scald, and he is gonna let the Magearna come in instead on the knockoff. So again, he's making the right play. Pex is getting worn down because of the Rocky helmet, and now the helmet's gone. And like I said, with the ground immunity being gone, Volt Switch is still very free against Theo, so he could definitely make the Volt Switch play again. And he is going to make the Volt Switch play here, as Zarude is going to drop there to the Volt Switch. So he does sack the Zarude there, which makes sense because again, Zarude got caught by the CC. So a very good play from. I mean, it's not a bad play, like by any means. This is not a bad play at all for him to go, for Ed to go for the CC there. It's not a bad play, but I think normally you probably go Corviknight, but it is what it is. So he gets the Volt Switch and brings in Bro. Bro was not a good play. I have to say it. Bro was not a good play here. I definitely think Crocodile is a little bit better here because Crocodile, like I said, puts pressure on 1, 2, and 3, and also does get a knockoff on the Corviknight. Or he could just bring in the Magearna again. But yeah, bringing in Bro means that Coco comes in for free, and I don't think he really wants that. So yeah, Coco's in here now, and now what Theo can do is go for a Thunderbolt on the Magearna, or he can go for Dazzling Gleam. Goes for Thunderbolt, and Magearna is basically dead now. So I don't agree with that Magearna play either. I'm really trying to figure out why he did that. I definitely think going Crook is still like a no. It's like a no drawback play, or even going King. Like he has King. King walls Coco pretty well. So I think going King would have been a much safer play. But sacking Magearna being a potential win con, or just potential breaker, I don't think it was really worth it. So Magearna's gonna drop here, which is not looking too good for Ed, and Theo is definitely gaining. It's getting a lot of momentum now, especially with that Volt Switch 2 on the Pex. So now Pex is in here on the Psyshock, and Psyshock does nothing. That did nothing, which is insane to me. So this Pex definitely has some defense investment. So maybe it's I don't know. It's definitely it took that Psyshock like nothing. It took it like nothing. So not too sure what kind of spread it is, but yeah, Flamethrower comes down doing 10%. But yeah, Psyshock doing only 42 is just insane to me. Gets the knockoff there. Psyshock comes down again doing 44, and this Pex is just shrugging off every hit. So with the AV being gone, Slowking is more free to Coco's more free to just Thunderbolt this down. And yeah, so now he has to go on Crocodile right here, which I don't really agree with either. I think he could have just stayed in with the King, or even went. Well, honestly, he has no good knockoff switching anyway. So it's just not that good for Ed at this moment. So with his speed control being gone, all Ed can really do is go for a knockoff potentially. So he is going to go for the Earthquake instead. So Earthquake's going to come down. But goes for a CC now, doing 23%, which is not a lot at all. And the Corviknight is just going to U-turn around. In comes Coco to go for a Dazzling Gleam again, to put more pressure on him, or just whatever. So Slowking comes in here on the Dazzle, doing 11%. Goes Crook there, which again, it doesn't really work because his choice scarf's gone. So with that being gone, all Ed can really do is just try and pivot around, but like he's not really getting a lot of momentum here. So yeah, Volt Switch comes down doing 24. Corviknight comes back in on taking the 12% from rocks, and here comes the Psyshock doing nothing. So yeah, I think Ed is just kind of trying to see what he's trying. Like he's trying to get something going, but like the momentum's all gone. Again, the moment he got knocked by the Toxapex, a lot of his momentum was just taken away. And also, I'm assuming that he probably didn't have Future Sight on the Slowking. So if he didn't have Future Sight, then yeah, not much he could have done here at this point. Maybe the slow bro had Future Sight, but most likely had Future Sight. So he probably could have pressured maybe the Cinderace potentially with Future Sight. But yeah, this is just pretty tough for Ed now, and I don't think he can really get back from this. Goes for a T-Wave there, so he does reveal to be the T-Wave Hex variant. So Hex will come down, doing 54%, so that is not bad damage, but Brave Bird comes down a lot harder, and pretty much Theo can just sack this and then bring in Cinderace if he wants to, or he can just go back into Hex anyway, which he does choose to go for. Hex doing 21%, so that's actually not that bad damage. That's definitely pretty solid. But the knockoff could potentially come down, but there comes the pair instead. So Ed's going to go for the Hex again, doing 40, so that's not bad damage, but knockoff will come down. And that's pretty much going to be the game. Yeah, that's pretty much going to be the game. He could go for a Future Sight here, which can still put some pressure on him, but like knockoff comes down too, which means he's going to lose his Rocky Helmet, and that means he can lose his way of punishing the Cinderace. And yeah, again, not much that can really happen here, and Pex is just going to keep living. So he'll just sack the Corviknight to the Future Sight / Scald, and yeah, so Scald comes down, gets parried there. Future Sight comes down, doing 66%, but of course the Pex lives and just stays in, and that's going to be that. So so yeah, again, like I said, he pretty much just loses. He just loses at this point. It was still a good game though. It was a good game. I definitely think Theo played it well defensively. Again, like playing well with Pex, Corvi, and the Hippo. Offensively, I think he played Coco. I think he played Coco pretty well, too. Granted, yeah, he played Coco very well defensively, or I mean, very well offensively. Again, putting pressure on the Magearna, on the Slowking, especially with the pair too. That pair definitely mattered. Again, with the Pex being able to outspeed it too. Definitely mattered a lot. But I think Ed's like misplays here definitely came down to the way how he handled Magearna. Magearna was very strong here, very, very strong. Crocodile as well. Like Crocodile and Magearna together would have been very nasty against this team. Had he played it more offensively or more aggressively. And Future Sight would have helped as well. Again, pressuring everything here, because that's what you're supposed to do with Future Sight. You're supposed to pressure like everything, even the Dark type, because that allows you to bring in the Magearna pretty easily than just Flare Cannon, and you could just Flare Cannon into Future Sight and then potentially get a lot of damage on something. So I thought that was the strategy he was going with, and then have Crook be the late game on. But unfortunately that did not go that way. But GG's to Theo, and yeah. So again, this was a good game. I like this game. And I really wanted to see the Cinderace do some work though. Like that would have been cool to see see Electro Ball boosted Electric Terrain, or I mean Electric Terrain boosted Electro Ball. That would have been pretty sick. I'm pretty sure that would have killed Bro, depending on the investment he has on that Cinderace, which I'm assuming has to be a lot for him to run it. But yeah, that's gonna be the first game, and this is actually from round 1 of the tournament. So yeah. So now let's move on to round. Technically, this is you know what? Actually, I'm not gonna go. You know what? Yeah, why not? I'll talk about this game. So this is actually the my semifinals match with the Spooky Z. Now technically, it's out of order. It's actually out of order. So let me go to this one. So this is actually the first game that we had against. So this is my first game against Spooky Z for the tournament. So Some background history for you guys who don't know about Spooky Z. He's actually a prodigy. You know, he's a prodigy. He's pretty new to the metagame. He started the metagame, I think, about like November or October. He started like somewhere in the fall, and the kid has just been like he's just been grinding up on points, you know, just been grinding up them points and just been rising on the ladder quite well from the academy. So he's a good player. So I was pretty curious about how this game would go down. Spooky's team is very strong, offensively, of course. He's got a lot of threats. Got the cart, got the Magearna, and the Coco. So all three of them could be dangerous. Same with Ace. Can't forget about the Bunny. So that's going to be pretty tough to play around for my team. But my team right here, I actually have Spectre. And Spectre, this is before Spectre was banned. So offensively, Spectre looks very good against him because he has no way around it unless the Magearna's can be AV. Which if it is AV Magearna, then, you know, like I said, that'll be kind of an issue to play around. But outside that, Shadow Ball is free on everything. So I have to make sure I can keep Spectre, you know, just put as much pressure on the team as I can. This is actually going to be a Choice Scarf one too. So Choice Scarf outspeeds everything, unless he's rocking like a Choice Scarf Coco, which is not good. So Shadow Ball is free for everyone. Weavile is actually very strong. That's another mon that I feel is very underrated right now in the OU metagame. Like Ice and Dark coverage is very solid, especially against the bros. It's good against the slow bro family, and it's just good in general with the ice coverage for the you know, the ground types, and, you know, the grasses as well, like Rillaboom. You could actually pressure that with Ice Shard, especially if you set up with the Weavile too. This Weavile right here is actually going to be Life Orb, and Life Orb Weavile I think is pretty well, I'm not going to say it's unexplored because a lot of people have been, you know, using Boots instead, but I think it's, you know, a set that people should try out more if you want to get this mon, you know, out there more offensively. I think Life Orb is the way to do it. Like it has been since like Gen 6. Latios is very strong here too. I'm gonna say it now. This is actually Specs Latios, and Specs Latios is actually good against everything barring the fairies. So this mon can be pretty good in just pressuring. Drill's gonna be my rocker. Pex is gonna be my defensive wall, and then Moltres is a little different. I'm gonna just say this boy a little different right here. This chicken a little different. I decided to make it offensive because offensive Moltres. Ooh, offensive Moltres is fire. Literally, that thing is just nasty. I think it's unexplored too. I think people should use offensive Moltres as well. That thing can just do so much damage. But yeah, anyways, let's dive into this game. So, we got Pex versus Cinderace. Now, this isn't a bad lead. This is a bad lead by no means, but I should have let Spectre. In hindsight, Spectre, like I said, just puts too much pressure on him. And also, I could find out if he Sucker Punch early by leading Spectre, but unfortunately, I did not do that. So, Pex is going to be the lead, which I believe I wanted to lead with Pex early because I wanted to T-Spike down early on Bro, potentially. So I go for a knockoff on the Bro switching, actually. So we get to knock off Boots, which is amazing. So that means that T-Spikes can stay down too, which is what I wanted. Skull comes down, as he probably predicted me to switch out, or maybe he just wanted the burn. Probably just wanted the burn, which makes sense. I go for a Skull back, which actually was a bad play because, again, I'm trying to get this thing burned, or I'm trying to get this thing poisoned instead of it getting burned. Because the only mon that actually, you know, can get burned or can get, you know, poisoned, as far as, you know, as I knew at the time, was the Slowbro, because, you know, its boots are gone. I don't know if Coco's gonna be, you know, boots, defog, or whatnot. And I know Cinderace is always boots, so the Skull play wasn't really the best play in my opinion. But it was kind of the only play I could make here. I probably could have went for the recover as well, just to see what else he'd do. But yeah, he does get the burn there, and now he goes for the Future Sight. So Future Sight is going to force me out, potentially, as I go for a Roost here, as he goes for the Teleport. So he goes for the Teleport there and brings in Lando. So Lando, again, just based off his team, it looks like it's going to be more, you know, more defensively oriented. So probably going to be like a rocker, most likely. I don't think Choice Scarf would make too much sense on this team. He already has enough speed control in the Kartana and the Cinderace as well, and even the Coco. Choice Scarf wouldn't really do a whole lot for him. But yeah, So Lando's in here, and Lando is gonna go for a U-turn. Now, now, if I did stay in with Pex, you know, on the okay, actually, no, let's actually like break this down a little bit. Okay. So me switching out Pex to bring in Weavile, I guess the turn before, or I mean on the Pex as he teleported as I went for my recovery. I don't know. I mean, I don't think my play going into Weavile was bad, but I definitely think I should have like took more time with this play. I don't think I should have went Weavile here. I probably should have went into Moltres if anything. I think Moltres would have been better here, like would have been better here defensively, because you know Lando doesn't usually run like Stone Edge unless it's going to be a an offensive variant, which which right now Lando is more defensively oriented and only runs like U-turn, Toxic, Earthquake, and then like Rocks or something, or Protect, Toxic, Earthquake, Rocks or something like that. Wait, no, not Earthquake, Rocks. I think it's like Toxic, Protect, U-turn, Earthquake, or something like that. But I know that they run Rocks a lot more. But yeah, I probably should have went Moltres and tried to punish him with the burn. But yeah, with him U-turning here, he gets to bring in Coco, and he gets poison as well. As I take the future sight. So yeah, again, taking the future sight isn't bad by all means, or by no means at all. But if I did go Moltres on the U-turn, future sight probably would have brought me down to about 30%, which meant that he could have went into Cinderace here for free, or he could have went into a Kartana and then knocked me off. So it was kind of a rough play to make on in hindsight. But yeah, so Weavile is in here now, taking the future sight. He has to go back into Lando, as I am going to go for, or as I'm actually going to double into Drill. So I think I made the double there, just to see, because I mean I knew, well, I didn't want to stay in it. I didn't want to stay in it, you know, potentially die to like a Thunderbolt or Dazzling Gleam. So I had to go into Drill. As he brings in Lando. So again, Spooky's playing very aggro here. All I can do here is go back into Weavile on the potential Rocks, or maybe something else he goes for. But he does go for Rocks there, which makes a lot of sense. Now, I make a very bad play here, and I make a very, very bad play. I go for SD because I'm crazy. Now, in hindsight, Crash is better. Crash is infinitely better. I'm life orb. I'm gonna die anyway. Like, Crash is the better play to make. Because for one, Crash will allow me to kill Lando, and also that'll force him to go into, you know, Bro, or go into Magearna, which means I can knock that off too. This is not a good play at all. What I did, that was not a good play, and he's gonna be able to punish me and U-turn that. I think he made a bad play as well, staying in like that. I think he probably meant to go in the Bro instead, or maybe even go into Magearna as well. But yeah, that really sucked for me. I should have just crashed. So so Crash is definitely the better play. I thought maybe he'd make a double in the Bro or something, but Crash is the better play to make, and I could have gotten my kill with that. So I had to bring in Drill, as Magearna's in here now, and I can go for my Rocks here. So I do go for my Rocks as he brings in the Lando. Or I probably spun. No, I did go for Rocks. So I get the Rocks up here, and now what I can do is go into Moltres here, as he's going to go for the Toxic, and that was a very, very good play from Spooky. I genuinely like that play a lot, because again, it covered whatever solution I go for, and he probably did predict the Moltres coming in anyway. So again, good play on this part. So now with Moltres being burned, or being toxic, I mean, Kartana's going to have an easier time in wearing me down. Cinderace is also going to have an easier time as well, especially if it's rocking Gunk Shot. Gunk Shot can definitely wear me down a lot faster, especially with the Toxic being down. So all I can really do here is either attack this thing or switch out. But he goes Bro. So Bro's going to get poisoned now and also gets chipped by Rocks. I go for the Fire Blast, and Fire Blast does a really good chunk to that Bro. That is not bad damage at all. I was very, very happy about that Fire Blast damage. I thought I'd do a little bit more than that, but this is actually going to be Modest Moltres, and Modest Moltres hits like a damn truck. that thing really hits hard, especially again on defensive mons like Bro. But yeah, I was pretty happy about that damage. As I am bringing this down a lot further, I go for the Overheat thinking it would kill, but it doesn't. It does not kill. I can actually do a calc right here and show you. Let's see. So Moltres, this is SS. I mean, this is a black and white. By the way, I'm actually recording this like a while after I recorded my black and white live. So that's why it's there. So let's see. So Moltres versus Slowbro, right? Let's put Lopez in here. Well, that's not the right Lopez. That's not the right Moltres set. Let's just. I know that's like the standard one right now. But let's see. So Moltres versus Slowbro. Again, we're gonna make this defensive, or we're gonna make this offensive. So let's make it modest 252, and let's give you overheat. So overheat to Slowbro does 34 to 40%. So if I got like a high roll there, then Poison would have knocked him out actually. Wait, hold up, wrong game. Poison probably would have knocked him out if I got that high roll there. But now what Spooky could do is go for the teleport there, which is actually a pretty good plan this part as well, because again that avoids the poison too. The poison kill if he did go for a skull. So again, it makes sense from his. It makes sense, for him to teleport there. But yeah, overheat does 34 to 40% as you saw in the calc. So I got a low roll there actually, which is still pretty insane to me. Just seeing that. Now let me actually show you the Fire Blast damage too, just to really put it into perspective. So Fire Blast does 28 to 34% to Bro. So again, that is not bad damage. If I got like a higher roll, then I probably could have killed the Bro. Yeah, I probably had a decent shot at killing Bro. So I don't think I made the bad play going for the overheat there. I had no switching for Bro to begin with. I mean, I guess I had Latios, but then he has Magearna, which hasn't revealed itself yet, and the Coco as well. So it's kind of hard for me to bring in Latios like effectively. But yeah, so Coco's in here. Gets the electric terrain up, and I have to get worn down by Toxic and everything, so I have to switch out here. But Spooky is going to bring in Lando as he catches my my switching, but not really. I bring in Latios. Well, I mean, I think I made the double actually. I think the double predicting the Lando, or maybe even predicting. I forgot why I made that double. I mean, I had to make the double. I had to. Maybe he was thinking I'd go back in the drill, which is again not a bad play from Spooky's perspective. But yeah, with me bringing in the Latios here, I could go for a Surf here, and Surf will knock out the Lando. So he's forced to sack Lando. So Lando's gone. But now what this means is that Spooky gets a free switch into Magearna or even the Kartana. So Kartana's going to come in here, and I have to go into Moltres on the knockoff. But he goes for Leaf Blade instead, which I was very happy about. I think Spooky should have went for a knockoff there. He probably knew that. Maybe he just second guessed it. Maybe he thought I'd go into Pex instead. But yeah, now this is where things start to really matter. Especially with with the burn with the burn earlier from Bro's Skull. This Kartana, I'm just gonna say now, just based off that damage, that might be banded. Because that does a lot, especially to my offensive Moltres. This one actually has some defense investment, by the way. It has like 56 in defense, so that way I could take on against Cinderace and even the Kartana. Because again, Kartana normally does around, I think 56. No, I think it's like 55 to 65%, something like that. Around that range if it is banded. So, but again, seeing that Leaf Blade damage though definitely tells me that, oh yeah, this thing's banded. This thing's very banded. So, he's not gonna stay in here and get burned. So I'm gonna get a free Roost here as he brings in Cinderace now. And like I said, defensively, I can kind of take on the Cinderace, but I'm not gonna try and really do too much. He goes for the Powerball there, doing 33%. I go for the Roost again. So now Toxic will bring me down to 69%. So again, a little bit lower than where I was at before. Now I have to bring in Pex here, as he can go for the U-turn again on my switch in. Which again is smart. So now Coco has to come back in here again. And now what I can do is I have to either go back in the drill or whatnot, but he's going to try and catch my prediction, which is again a smart play in this part. So you can just catch my drill switch in. I can't really go into Moltres like I want to, so I'm thinking maybe he won't Leaf Blade again, but he still Leaf Blades anyway. Like Spooky doesn't care about the Moltres. Like he genuinely doesn't care about the Moltres. Like again, as long as I'm getting worn down by Toxic, I think that's what he wants. But still, I feel like that was a little too risky on his part. Again, if he did get the burn, how would he play around this? If he didn't burn my or I mean, if the Kartana did get burned, how would he play around this? But yeah, losing drill kind of sucks because that means I lose my electric immunity to the Tapu Koko, and also my voltage immunity as well to the Magearna. And also drill just put a lot of pressure on these two anyway, just naturally. But yeah, losing drill is not that great, but yeah, I didn't expect Leaf Blade. So now I get to bring in Moltres for free with Inspector. Inspector comes in. Inspector can do some work. So I go for a Shadow Ball as Magearna comes in. And this Shadow Ball is going to do jack shit damage. So I have to go into Latios here on the Volt Switch. Or the Flurkin, whatever you do. He goes for Volt Switch instead. And now in comes the Cinderace, which is faster than me anyway. So got to make some doubles with Pex as I could take whatever hit this goes for. He goes for the U-turn. So again, this is getting worn down even faster, which is what I want. Coco's back, and now what happens here is I believe that he goes for the Roost here. Yeah, he should Roost here, I think, as he does go for the Roost there. So I did make that prediction. Because again, what else could Spooky do? He could have went for Thunderbolt, because again, Thunderbolt is pretty free on everything. So I honestly would have expected that. That would have been a solid play for him, because again, he doesn't really lose much. He doesn't really lose a whole lot by going for Thunderbolt if he did go for it, but you want to keep the Coco healthy, which makes sense. So now, what I can do here is go for a Surf again, as Bro comes in, and Surf is going to come down, and it will knock out the Bro. So Bro is going to die to the poison, but however, that boy coming back in, that Origami, Origami really making papers. I gotta let my Pex die to this Bandit Kartana. Well, not really. I have to keep it around, but I have to just, But he makes a double anyway, making the double into my Moltres. But I go for a knockoff instead, which is crazy. Very crazy play on my part. I don't think I should have went for knockoff there. I definitely think that I should have went back into Moltres. But if I did, then well, Coco coming in, you guys see where that goes. Thunderbolt just comes down and just kind of wrecks me. So it's not really a good spot for me at this point. So I think I had to make the knockoff play. The knockoff play hurts me a lot because now Coco can switch up moves and can also just freely Roost whenever it wants to. So this kind of sucks. He's not locked in anymore. So now he goes for the Roost anyway, as I can go for a knockoff again in case he wanted to make a double or something. But he's never going to double. He had no reason to double. I go Latios here, as what he can do now is go for a Roost again, and now the Coco's back to full, and I'm in a bad spot. I'm in a very bad spot. However, he goes into Magearna instead on my Surf, or my double. Nope, I Surfed again, and Surf is still bringing this down, which is good, but now I have to sack the Latios here. So he goes for the Flurkin in there, and now what this means is I could actually go into Moltres if I want to, or I can go Spectre, which again, this Magearna being low means I can just Shadow Ball here and potentially kill it, but I don't because this thing is too damn fat. So he brings in Cinderace, and I have to go back into Pex. I go Moltres instead in case he went for U-turn, but he goes for the Sucker Punch there, which again makes sense because I wanted to stay in and go for Shadow Ball again. So he does reveal his whole set, which is U-turn, Power Ball, Sucker Punch, and Gunk Shot, which I'm assuming Gunk Shot is the last move because he needs to hit the fairies. Granted, he already hits the fairies pretty hard with Coco, Cart, and Magearna, but it also covers everything. It also covers like other things as well. So he is going to just make the double into the Magearna in case I go for a fire move, but I go for the Roost instead because again, like I said, I don't die to the Cinderace. Not even a Gunk Shot will kill me, especially at the range I was at. Granted, poison would have definitely racked up there. But yeah, again, Moltres at this point now is looking to be my win con. So what I'm trying to do now is get myself in a position where I can knock out these two here, and then Moltres can wall the Cinderace. So what he does here is Spooky has to go into Coco, right? So Coco comes in here now. I have to go into Toxapex and just sack it here. So I sack the Pex, as again, like I said, Pex isn't really that important anymore because, like I said, Moltres deals with these two very well, and Spectre can just Shadow Ball now. So I go Spectre now, as Shadow Ball is free, and I get to knock out something right now. So I get to knock out the Kartana, actually. So he makes the sack into the Kartana. So there goes Cart, and now this is where things get crazy. This is where things get very crazy. Cinderace is in here. So now it comes down to Sucker Punch. It all comes down to Sucker Punch. Now, Spooky can do a number of things. He could just attack me with Sucker Punch and not have to think about anything. Or he can make a double on my Moltres switching. Like, he loses nothing. He loses absolutely nothing by going for Sucker Punch here. So it all comes down to Sucker Punch games. Will he Sucker Punch or will he just make a double? If he makes a double into my Moltres, I still basically lose anyway because Thunderbolt will kill Spike Tree and will kill Moltres. But if I stay in and go for Shadow Ball, then I can knock out the Coco and then Moltres just wins. So there's a whole lot that's banked on this turn. Will he make the Sucker Punch play or will he just make the double? Again, in Spooky's position, I feel like Sucker Punch is still the better option. But Coco is still not a bad option either. Like he's not in a bad spot, but it is just basically a 50-50. So I have to Shadow Ball on his switching / Sucker Punch play. So this is all I can do. And he does make the double into Coco on my Moltres switching, and I get to knock out the Coco, and that's going to be the game because Moltres walls this. And that is that. Yep, Sucker Punch comes down, knocks out my Spectre, but Moltres just walls this thing forever. And that will be the game. He has to go for the Power Ball, and I go for Scorching Sands, and that will knock out Cinderace. In case he wanted to go for Power Ball, or not Power Ball, in case he wanted to go for a Gunk Shot, that still would have killed anyway. But yeah, the Sucker Punch matchup it's oh man, I hate those 50-50s as much as anybody else does. Like it's very difficult to make that kind of play. Again, I don't think Spooky the play he made here, like the Coco Ace situation he was in, it really did come down to that 50-50. If you Sucker Punch, he won. It's as simple as that. If you Sucker Punch, he won. And I can't blame him for that. I can't. It's a very tough play to make. Because again, like I said, if I did go Moltres, Coco would have died, and I still would have walled the Cinderace anyway with Moltres. So yeah, it was definitely a tough call to make. He also had the option to stay in anyway. Like I said, I make the double in case he went for Sucker Punch, and then he would have been forced to sack Coco anyway at that point, and then I still walled the Moltres, or then I still walled the Cinderace with Moltres. But yeah, again, the Shadow Ball play was the best play to make, and it ended up working out for me. So that is going to be game 1 against Spooky Z. Again, it was a very intense game, and I definitely felt like I made a lot of misplays here. Again, especially against Lando. We all could have done a lot more. We all could have done so much more, but I messed up horribly against his Lando, and that's my fault. That's all my fault. Crash was free. It was just free. Crash was just free. And I didn't take advantage of it. But yeah, that's gonna be game 1. So let's move on to game 2. So game 2, this is the team that I actually posted in the forums. This is the Sand team I was having some success with. On the ladder. I ended up getting this team up to 1659, so I'm probably going to do some more laddering with it later on, just to see how much further I can get this team. But yeah, so Spooky Z, he's got a little bit more of a different team, a more, I'd say, defensive team compared to the other offensive team he had with the Coco Ace. The Coco Ace and the Bandit Cart and the Specs Coco and all that jazz. This is more defensively based, so he's bringing sand. So we're both bringing like a sand matchup here. Again, his sand is more defensive, while my sand is more offensive. So this is the goal of of this game. The goal is, again, for me, my goal is to make sure I knock off the Skarmory, because if I can knock off Skarmory, keep that thing low, then Rillaboom can go nuts here. Just goes nuts. Same with Gyarados potentially. So yeah. Now leads, right? So leads. I have a couple good leads against Spooky. But it all comes down to if Spooky leads Hippo or not. Because again, we're both rocking sand, so it's kind of difficult to make the lead Hippo. Because again, either one could take advantage of that. But I think Hippo for me is actually better, leading, or it's better as a lead, because again, I get my rocks up early, and I get to chip the Skarmory early with the Rocky Helmet, or not with the Rocky Helmet, but with the with the rocks up. Skarmory doesn't really run boots, so rocks are free on that thing, are free in general. And also, again, I gotta mention that my Hippo is specially defensive, so I could take on the Hydreigon lead as well if he did lead Hydreigon. So again, Hippo's not a bad lead for me. The worst lead probably would be Zapdos, because or Galarian Zapdos, or Gyapdos. That's what I always call Gyapdos, or that's what I always call it. Gyapdos though, Gyapdos actually isn't really that good of a lead, because again, it gets pressured by 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it just gets pressured by this half of the team, and even Hippo to some extent, depending on what kind of Hippo it is, which is most likely It's most likely going to be like defensive, of some kind. But yeah, Gyapdos is really a good lead for me. So again, the best lead is either Hippo. Even Scizor isn't a bad lead for me, because again, I want the knockoff on things. Again, knocking off Skarmory is what I want. That's what I'm aiming for. Knocking off this, knocking off that. That's what I want. So yeah, anyways, let's dive in and let's see how this game went. So as a lead, I led with my music. Let me turn that off. Okay, so all right. Like I said, this is the worst lead for me, because I can't do anything. I have to switch out. I have to. This is not a good lead at all. Again, Gyapdos gets walled by like over half the team. So in hindsight, Hippo was a better lead, and I always should have led Hippo. Always. It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of tough when I'm fighting opposing Sand, because I don't know if I want to lead with my own Hippo or if I want to lead with something that takes advantage of my opponent's Hippo. Like it's always kind of tough for me to make that kind of decision if I want to lead Hippo or not. But I think in this case, like I think if it's a more defensive team, Hippo is still a good lead, regardless if they lead Hippo anyway, because it's gonna come down to who lands the Taunting as well and everything. If it is gonna be a lead Hippo situation. But yeah, I should have led Hippo. That was the best lead, and because of that, I have to U-turn this, potentially get chipped. But instead, I go hard Scizor here instead, as he goes hard into Koko. So that was an interesting play. I'm assuming that he predicted my my Hippo switching, or maybe he predicted my. No, he definitely predicted my probably my Hippo switching, or maybe even the boom switching. Either way, it's not too bad for me here. Again, depending on what kind of Koko this is, which, again, just based off of Spooky's team, I feel like this is going to be more of a utility type of Koko. So probably going to be running like Defog, Roost, Thunderbolt, and then like U-turn or something like that. So what I go for here is I just stay in here. Actually, I think I went for knockoff on the Peck switching. Nope, I went for Roost instead. And KTC went for Thunderbolt, which again, my Scizor is pretty special. It's pretty like bulky, so it can take some hits on the special side as well. Especially because again, his Koko seems to not be fully offensive. So Thunderbolt probably would have done like up to maybe 40%, and I still would have roosted that off. So with Pex being in here, I'm in a situation where I have to just start SDing up. So I start SDing up. He goes for a Scald. I'm Lumberry, so I'm okay with getting burned. It doesn't really matter too much for me. So I'm going to do it again just to see what kind of Pex he is, and he goes for Haze. So Haze, in case you don't know, is starting to rise up a lot in popularity because it deals with a lot of setup sweepers. So setup sweepers like, again, Scizor, for example, or even like setup Rillaboom and such like that, like sets like that. So it's a very good mon like that can just stop setup. So I go for an SD again, right? Because I want to make sure that I get the most amount of damage on Pex as possible. He's trying to get the burn on me, but like I said, the burn doesn't matter too much because I have the Lumberry, and the Lum does pop off there. So now what I can do is go for a knockoff. I get rid of the Black Sludge there, which is what I wanted in the first place. He goes for the Haze, and I can just Roost here and keep Scizor healthy if I wanted to, but I go Rillaboom instead. Rillaboom right here puts a lot of pressure on Spooky at this point because he has to go into Skarmory. So he goes for the recovery there. I could Wood Hammer, but I'm not doing it. I have to go for a knockoff. So I do not actually. okay. I think I went Wood Hammer in case he stayed in, but Spooky doesn't seem that crazy enough to just stay in on Rillaboom. No one really stays in on Rillaboom like that. That's just a little too risky to make. Granted, grassy terrain is a lot weaker than it was last gen. But even still, I don't think you want to make a play like that to stay in with Pex on Rillaboom. It's not really that great. So I kind of get punished by the Skarmory because I have to take Wood Hammer plus Rocky Helmet damage. So now I have to go into Moltres here as he goes for the Taunting on my switch. And again, Spooky is making all the aggressive plays. Catching my Moltres slash Hippo switching. Again, he's making all the aggressive plays here. And I cannot lie, that Taunting miss is very ass though. So now he's forced to switch out and go into Pex as I go for a Flamethrower here, get some damage on it. And now what I can do is go right back into Hippo here. So I bring in Hippo here as the sand is going to, or not the sand, the grassy terrain is going to go away, which means that Earthquake is going to be free on this thing. And also rocks are good here too. So I do go for rocks here as he brings in the Hydreigon. And like I said, my Hippo is very special defensive, so I can take a hit from this. He goes for the Nasty Plot there. I go for a Toxic. I land it. And watch this Draco Meteor fly by. Because I'm able to eat that shit with barely. I mean, I ate it, but still. Or, I mean, Hippo ate the hit, but still, like, dang. Spadef Hippo is just a nasty mon. So he brings in the Skarmory as I go my Slack off. Wow, that's a little redundant. I bring in Scizor here as he goes for a Taunting on my switch in. So again, he's making all the aggro plays. I have to go for a knockoff again in case he wanted to stay in, but instead he's gonna go back into Pex there, again making the more aggro play. So now what I can do is bring in Rillaboom again, and Rillaboom just puts on pressure again. Goes for a Skull there. He wants to burn on me. Unfortunately, he doesn't get it. And now this is a situation that could actually benefit me, you know. So Pex is in the position where Wood Hammer can kill, and I don't think Spooky wants to do that, right? So his only switch in to take on the Rillaboom is going to be Skarmory. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, Superpower is definitely the right play to make because Superpower has the potential to knock it out. I'll show you the calc real quick. Because Rillaboom, even with its coverage options, can still hit pretty hard with Superpower. So if we're looking at the Skarmory versus Rillaboom matchup, knockoff does around, there's 28 to 34%. So with rocks being down as well, that has a decent shot to be at 2 KO. Granted, I don't think that's the right option for me to make. So I have to go for the Superpower play instead. So let's see how much Superpower does. So Superpower to Skarmory does 35 to 42%, which is a guaranteed 2 KO against Spooky. So I have to go for the Superpower play as he does go Skarmory, and he's at 58%. Superpower comes down, and I crit him. Now that crit really hurt Spooky a lot. Like, I mean, had I not crit anyway, Superpower is still pretty like reliable anyway. Because he would have been at around, because with the rocks, he would have been around, I think, 15%ish or something like that. And he also did have the option to switch out and go into Hippo or something else on the Superpower switch in afterwards. If had that crit not come down. But still, regardless, that was going to be a lot of damage anyway, doing up to 42%. So he would have been at 16%, my bad. So he would have been at 16%. And then that would have forced me to go back into Pex. But yeah, that crit really hurt Spooky there. And because of that, Rillaboom has a lot more leeway now, and Grassy Glide just kind of wrecks him. This is why Rillaboom is just so nasty. This thing is just so stupid. Like, once you get rid of the resist, with like knocking off or even just going for a Superpower, into like, again, that said steel, then Rillaboom just kind of cleans everything else up. Rillaboom or even the drill can do it. So it's a scary mon, you know. It's a scary mon in the late game, or just like in the late / mid game, especially when the resist is gone, like I said. So Coco comes in here, and now what I can do is go back into Hippo, and Hippo again, like I said, walls this thing pretty effectively. So he goes for the U-turn there again, brings in the Hydreigon, and Hydreigon just gets, you know, this gets kind of walled by this. Even if he does go like, I mean, well, +4 will definitely kill me, but I go drill here on the Draco Meteor, and that's gonna be that. I can SD here, and he can't really do much after that. So goes Pex there as I SD. Because again, I lose nothing by SDing there since he's at -2 anyway. So I can go for the high horsepower, and that'll be the game. Yeah, again, it was very unfortunate for Spooky Z. He definitely got the lower end of the stick from this game. And yeah, it was still a good game though, especially the first game. I enjoyed the first game a lot more than I enjoyed this game. Um, I definitely think this game could have been a lot closer. Had had things have went in Spooky's favor. Again, the Tonstic would have definitely messed me up. Granted, I didn't really use Moltres too much though. Again, it's good defensively against potentially the Drill if it's not running Rock Slide. Which, I mean, yeah, most of the time Drill doesn't really run Rock Slide anyway, because it already has things that can deal with its resist. Like again, Hydreigon can kind of deal with Zapdos, and even like some Corviknight variants too. So Drill, he has Coco for Corviknight anyway. And any other like resist to Drill. So he has ways around Drill, so he probably didn't need to run Rock Slide. So which means that maybe Moltres still could have dealt with it. But the Tonstic being down would have been like in the same situation I was in the previous game when Moltres did get toxic. But yeah, this was still a pretty tough game for Spooky, but I enjoyed it regardless. Yeah, I enjoyed it regardless. So yeah, that is gonna be the game. So after this game, this actually moved me to the semifinals of the tournament. So, or not the semifinals, the finals of the tournament. So I'm gonna move on to the game that also happened during the semifinals, which was Vento versus Theo. So Vento is she's a pretty interesting player. She seems to play in a lot of different tiers. And she has some pretty good experience in the variety of tiers that she plays. So I played her a couple times. And again, like I said, she's not bad. So I was actually kind of curious about how this would go down against Theo. So looking at the matchup though, matchup wise, we have Hyper Offense versus. Wait, hold on. This is the second game. This is the second game. Wait, no. I'm so sorry. Let me find the actual game. I don't think I have it. Shoot, I don't actually have the game. Because there was another game that dang it. Because this is actually game 2. Crap. I can't find the other game. Hold up. Jeez, that's embarrassing. Let me just type it in. Maybe I could find it. Probably not. Probably not. No, I can't find it. Actually, wait. Let me try this. Let's see. Probably not. I probably can't find it. Okay, hold up. This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. I do apologize for that. So you know what? I didn't mean to do that. Let me just go out of this. And just play it as is, I guess. So, you know what? Let's just keep going. So, this is the second match. I'm just gonna say it in the first match. She won. Yeah, she won in the first game. Against Theo. Using again this HO team. She actually won with her Magearna, and Magearna was just able to. Actually, no. It was the Wait, no. It wasn't for this game. It was for the other game. In the first game, she actually won with Magearna. Because again, Magearna's just stupid. But that thing really just kind of swept after screens went up from Coco. So screens went up from Coco. Magearna came in, started setting up, and then that was that. So in game 2, Theo actually won, but unfortunately, I don't have the replay for that one as well. But apparently, Theo actually won with a Reuniclus. So again, this is what Vento told me. So I'm going by her word. But yeah, so this is game 3. So this is actually game 3. So again, HO versus Sand Balance. usually HO kind of just dominates, especially if that Hex doesn't have haze, then well, it really just dominates. But if Theo can pressure the team early without the sand, or without the setup happening first, then maybe Dro can break through this team. But like if Theo can prevent the setup, then maybe Dro can do it. But let's see what happens here. So turn 1, we have Tapu Koko versus Pex. Well, for one, on HO, Koko doesn't run an electric move. It needs to run Taunt to stop opposing monsters from defogging / getting up rocks. So Koko will just get up screens here because Pex doesn't really pressure this thing that well anyway. It could potentially scald it or maybe toxic it, but that's what Vento wants. She wants to be able to set her screens up and then get some initiative going. So U-Turn's gonna come down instead actually. So never mind, forget what I said. She's gonna go into Magearna here, and T-Spice come down. So T-Spice being down is definitely not too bad, but it doesn't really help that much. I mean, it helps against Koko and Cloyster and Blaziken, but that's it. It doesn't help against anything else. So if Electro Ball comes down, it does a lot of damage there. That is a ton. Knockout comes down, getting rid of the weakness policy. So weakness policy is gone. Now in comes Drill on the shift gear. And then with the shift gear coming down, well, Focus Blast is going to come down even harder. So there goes the Drill, and there goes the win con from Theo. So that's really ass. Zapdos is in here. Ice Beam comes down, doing a lot, and Discharge comes down. It comes down even harder, or not harder, because Ice Beam did a lot more. T-Tars to come in here on the Ice Beam and gets a crit. So Focus Blast has to land, and Focus Blast will land, and that is going to be that. So yeah. Oh wait, no, it was the first game. The first game that they had, Pex did have haze, but it was against the Cloyster, and Cloyster actually broke through because of the flinch. So yeah, it was actually a King's Rock Cloyster, which is effective against Pex. It's very effective. It's very effective when you get the flinch. So yeah, and you have like 5 chances to get it. So technically, that's like almost what. Oh crap! Sorry about that. That was something coming up. Technically, that's like what, like a almost, I think like 70% chance, something like that. It's a pretty high chance to flinch. It's a very high chance to flinch. But yeah, this did not go well for Theo, and that's gonna be the end of his road. So this is gonna be the finals. So now we got the finals. We got the finals. With me versus Vento. So not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous about this game. So this is actually after Spectre got banned. So this is actually also, let me get, wait, hold up. I'm trying to get like the other game. Maybe I could just copy the link and then just put it here. Okay. So, alright. So, let me just move that over, and then I'll talk about the first game. Alright, so first game, against Vento. Team-wise, this shit looking scary, man. This shit looking real scary. So, like I said, Spectre's banned at this point, so I had to put something over that team, and I decided to go with Blacephalon. Blacephalon actually was actually an okay mon as a substitute, because it still has the amount of offense that Spectre had, but it is a little bit slower. But it's still very strong. Don't get it twisted. This mon is still very, very strong. So I felt like it was a good sub. I was thinking about using Dragapult too, but Dragapult kind of invites in the fairies. I don't really like that too much. Granted, I do have half my team is resistant to fairy, but even still, that doesn't feel right to me. So I decided to go with Blacephalon, which has a little bit more offensive pressure going for it. So this team is scary as hell. I don't know what I'm fighting. I had no idea what I was fighting when I fought this team. I was just like, what do I do? What do I do? Like it was a tough game to play around. Like it might not look like it at like matchup wise, but I don't know why. But I had a hard time trying to figure out what was going on. So all I can say is that this team is very offensive. That's what I can say. Just based off the team, it looks very offensive. The Bisharp could be deadly in the late game because it does pressure everything here on my team. Dragapult's also pretty deadly too, especially if it's a Specs variant. Which, by the way, I should have played off that, but I played very badly against that because my Bucifalon is actually Choice Scarf, and Choice Scarf can't outspeed the Dragapult, and no one runs Choice Scarf Dragapult. So Shadow Ball was actually pretty free in turn 1. I'm just gonna say it. Turn 1, I actually did lead Bucifalon. But yeah, Bucifalon is strong here. It's very strong here. But it's all about this Bisharp being a problem. This thing is really the main issue. But outside of that, Bucifalon's free on everything. I realized that at least. So I decided that Bucifalon was the one I wanted to focus on. So I do lead it. So I lead Bucifalon, and she leads Dragapult. So like I said, in this matchup, I can easily just Shadow Ball here. I don't lose anything by Shadow Balling. But at the same time, I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what she's gonna do. I don't know if she'll go for like Sucker Punch or something or whatnot. But technically, Shadow Ball is the right play to make here. Because again, no one runs Choice Scarf Dragapult. Choice Scarf Dragapult is very bad. It's very bad. It was good. Like it was decent. It was decent in the beginning of the meta when no one knew what was going on. It was actually decent in that. Like people ran like modest Choice Scarf, but people saw how weak that is and decided, you know what, nah, Specs is the wave. Dragapult's already fast anyway, so Choice Scarf doesn't really like benefit it that much. So again, like I'm saying, Shadow Ball's free, but I didn't do it. I switched because I'm crazy, because I'm bad. I'm bad. I should have went for Shadow Ball because it was free. It was very free. But in hindsight, I think Vento also should have made a double as well. Predicting the Shadow Ball. Which is why I felt like Pex was a better option to go for. But in her defense, Shadow Ball is just free on my team as well. I don't really have too many outs against it, and Pex was my only switching for it. So I go for a knockoff here as she brings in the Ferrothorn. So I get to knock off whatever item is on it, and it's lefty, so that's pretty cool. I go for a T-Spike here. T-Spike does help because it does pressure the King if it's not Boots. It also pressures Dragapult since it seems to be Specs just based off the damage it was doing, and that's that. That's that. If I can knock off the King, then maybe I can get rid of the Boots and poison that as well. So that's my goal here. That's what I want to do. With the Ferrothorn going for the lead sheet, I was actually pretty surprised by that. I thought maybe she would go for Hazards instead, but especially because I have a Bucifalon, I think you want to go for Rocks there, but she didn't go for that play, and I found that very confusing. So what I do here is I go for Moltres. I go Moltres here as she makes the double into Lando. Now, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen here. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here. I think I made a double into... I think I made a double here. I might have made a double because I wasn't sure what the Lando would do. I mean, based off the team, I felt like maybe it would be like a Choice Scarf Lando because, this team doesn't really have good speed control. So maybe it would be Choice Scarf on this team. And then maybe the Ferrothorn would just be like dual hazards or something. I was kind of thinking that. So let's see. So I go into drill here just to see what this Lando would do, and Lando goes for Toxic. Okay, so I get my rocks up here, and the Lando switches up moves. So this was definitely a defensive Lando, which meant that it had rocks as well, which means I could go Weavile here. Losing drill, like I said, isn't bad, but getting up rocks is still like pretty significant because again that gets the chip on the Dragapult, and that's what I want. So now with Weavile being in here, I could freely go for an SD, or I could just crash this thing. And I should have learned my lesson from the last game, when I played Spooky and just go for the move. But I decided to, just SD instead. So I get the triple axle down, doing 20, doing 36, and then I land the last hit. And I'm just like, yo, that is crazy damage. The fact that I was able to kill the Ferrothorn meant that the Ferrothorn was definitely not physically defensive. So this dying was great. I get to go for an Ice Shard on this and kill the Dragapult, so Dragapult's gonna die there. Now what Vento can do is go Bisharp, and I have to switch. I can't stay in here. I have to go Moltres here, and she goes for the Iron Head. And I was very scared by that Iron Head play. I was tremendously scared. I was just like, oh shit. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. But I kind of thought like maybe Sucker Punch would come down. Sucker Punch would have made some sense here. But also I felt like I needed to keep Weavile because Weavile puts pressure on Volk, puts pressure on King, and puts pressure on Lando. So I wanted to keep Weavile around for as long as possible. Now, I'm not too sure if Knockoff can kill. But again, like I said, my Moltres is offensive, so it had a chance to die to the Bisharp. So let me just show you the calc for yourselves. So Life Orb, Bisharp. This was actually, yeah, again, this is Life Orb. So it might have been Adamant actually, just based off that Iron Head damage, because that did a shit ton. So versus Moltres. So again, let's say it is the offensive variant. So let's make you modest. And I didn't give this thing HP investment, so let's go no HP, and let's go like 56 in defense. So 56 in defense. Yeah, that did a shit ton of damage. And Iron Hit on the double did how much to me? Iron Hit on the double did 31%. So yeah, this thing is strong. And Sucker Punch definitely had a, actually it didn't kill me. It actually didn't kill me. Okay, so I should have calced it. I should have calced. 100% should have calced. I should have calced that beforehand. But technically we don't die to Sucker Punch. But I feel like Vento won't make the play to go for the Sucker Punch anyway, so I decided to just roost here, and it works, but it doesn't because this is here, and this is bad. This is very bad. This can set up right now, and I'm kind of in a bad spot. So Vento's just gonna go for the QD instead. I go to Fire Blast off, which is a lot of damage, and I'm pretty happy about that damage. Psychic comes down, and I'm just like, oh, what the fuck? And I miss Fire Blast too. So I'm really just double what the fuck. So I have to go into Pex here and just let it die to Psychic. So there goes Pex. And now what I can do is go into Blacephalon and then just trick this thing to lock it into QD. And yeah. So now with Boots being up on my Blacephalon, I don't have to worry about, you know, rocks coming down from Lando, and this is locked into QD, which means that I can go into whatever I want for free. Lando comes in here as I am going to go into Moltres. So again, she makes the play to do that. I go Latios here as she goes for a Toxic instead. So Toxic's gonna come down. I go for a Draco here. Actually, I think I surfed. No, I did Draco. So Draco's gonna knock out the Lando, which again, she was okay with letting that Mon go. Bisharp's in here, which is bad. Spawn's always bad to come in. So I go for a Draco again, which is not really the best play, but at the same time, I didn't really need Latios at this point. Because like I said, I can win right now with Weavile. So I felt like that was a pretty safe play to make. Now, with her staying in like that, I was actually very scared. I was just like, oh no, she's gonna set up. But no, she went for knockoff instead, and I was just like, okay, so that's not too bad. Again, I can go into Moltres here for free, and Moltres, and I can just roost her on Sucker Punch, but she goes for knockoff instead. I'm just like, yo, stop. 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 It's so scary. I don't even get a burn out there. I have to roost again. And she does go for the Sucker Punch there. And now I'm out of range of knockoff and Sucker Punch. And I could just, you know, roost again and make sure that I don't die to this thing. And now I can attack this thing for free. Go Slow King there instead. And I get a Scorching Sands off, which does no damage. No burn either. I go into Blacephalon here. As she goes for a Skull. Skull is going to bring me down to 3%. I managed to knock out the Volcarona in the process, though, and I'm able to Shadow Ball and knock it out. However, the Bisharp's back. And I'm just like, oh, fuck, no. I have to sack something. So I just sacked the Blacephalon, and there it goes, and now Weavile wins. So, again, I was very nervous. I was genuinely scared what was going on. Like, I had no idea what was going on. Like, this shit scared me. Like the way she played the Bisharp just genuinely scared me. I was just like, what is going on? I thought she'd SD or something, but no, she never did. So maybe the Bisharp didn't have SD, or maybe she just didn't feel the need to go for it. I don't know. I mean, I can kind of see why she didn't need to go for it, but I don't know. I think it just should have SD would have just finished me off, and that would have been a bad time. Would have been a very bad time. I'm just happy that Weavile was able to land all of its triple axles on fairly. That was pretty sweet. And being able to trick the Volcarona was pretty good as well. I think Vento played pretty well though in this game. Despite how like crazy it was. Yeah, I think she played pretty well. So the second game, I actually did have. So we had a second game, and she brought HO versus my versus a team that I actually haven't tested yet. But I wanted to see if it would work out, and that team got folded because she froze my Rhyperior, and then she had an Alucha on that team. It was actually Envy's Jirachi Star Power team that he used in a live like a while back. I think it was like last week or something. But that team was dirty. I knew what was gonna like happen with that team, so I had to try and play in a way where I couldn't let the Jirachi set up on me and everything. But again, the game didn't last very long because of the freeze, and then the Alucha just destroyed me, and that was that. So yeah, the freeze definitely screwed me over. So that's gonna be game 2. So now we got game 3, and game 3 is really what determines who's gonna be the champion of my SSOU tournament. So I bring Rain, and she brings like this regen core kind of looking team. I wasn't really sure what was going on here. Now, I'm not going to lie, I play very bad with Rain. Like, I don't know why, but this generation's Rain just feels very off to me compared to last gen's Rain. I mean, last gen's Rain was pretty, or Rain team was pretty, like, standard. Well, not standard, but it was more like, guaranteed. You had the Mega Pert, which just like broke through everything. You had your Spectre Ninja with Spike Pressure. Then you had, like, Ferrothorn with Rocks and everything. Then you had, like, Torn or Tapu Koko, one of those two. And then, like, I forgot what the last one was. I think it might have been like a Defog, or it might have been like some other offensive rain sweeper. The point is that right now Rain. Oh wait, it was Pelipper. Duh, probably Pelipper. But the point is that this is tough. This is. I mean, it's more based on the way how I played it, and I don't think I played this game well. I'm just gonna say it now. Again, Rain versus Sand is usually a matchup that Rain can dominate. And against this team, I felt like I had the potential to do it. But I just didn't really position myself that well in this match. So you guys are gonna find out. So turn the music off for some reason. All right, so. Turn 1, we got Torn versus Ferrothorn. This is a bad lead. I thought maybe she'd want to lead Hippo to, again, prevent the rain. But Torn actually makes sense against my team because, again, Torn just kind of pressures the team in general. So maybe Pelipper was a better lead anyway, and I could have got a U-turn off. Granted, I would have got my Damp Rock knocked off, so it was still kind of tough. Torn really is like the mon that kind of messed my team up like pretty badly. Also, by the way, this team I really haven't tested that well either. I should have brought teams I was more comfortable with and teams I've actually used, but I haven't actually used this Rain team like for real. So I bring in Ferrothorn, like I said, as a lead, and she goes for the taunt, which makes the most sense. I go for a knockoff to get rid of whatever item it is, it's boots. I bring in Torn as she goes for a knockoff back, and now my boots are gone. I go for I go into Pelipper here to get the rain up, but it's not really good for me because I get worn down very badly. I have to go Torn here on the Hurricane, and Hurricane does a lot of damage to me, gets the confusion as well, and I'm trying to break through and maybe outspeed it. I do outspeed it, maybe try to kill it, but I don't, and my Torn dies, which is horrible because Torn would have been pretty good against the other mons on this team as well. So now what I have to do is go for a flip turn, but Bro just walls me. So Bro comes in, go for a flip turn, and that does nothing. I have to go Ferrothorn here, and also it seems to be boots anyway. So helmet doesn't really bother me too much, but still, it's not that great. Again, losing Torn would have is really bad because Bro just becomes even more annoying to deal with. So now all I can really do is go for spikes or whatever. So Conkeldurr comes in here as I go for my rocks here, and now the Conkeldurr's in here for free. I am actually Chopple, so I can lift the fighting move. Does a lot. Gets shipped by the Rocky helmet or by the Iron Barb. So I go for a whip for the whip. There's a lot there. But now I pretty much just have to sack my only resist to Magearna. And there we go. So I go into her Shifu Rapid Strike, goes for the Mach Punch there, doing a lot to me. Go for a U-turn and a knock out the Kinkelder. And now what she's going to do is bring in the Torn, because again, it's free. Or even Bro, and I can't do anything against that. I have to SD here. As she goes for a Future Sight, I go for an Earthquake. I do a lot, but Ice Beam comes down, and she reveals the Ice Beam, and I live it barely. I go for Aqua Tail, because it covered the Torn switch, and it also covered Hippo, and I actually knocked out the Hippo, which, again, doesn't really help me too much, because I'm still going to lose to the Torn and the Bro. So I go for a U-turn. Actually, I think I went for Thunder Punch, because I covered the Torn and also the Bro, but did nothing. And Magearna's just going to be able to sit there and just, kind of do what it can. I get my Rain up, she gets the Calm Mind up, and, yeah. That's going to be that, because Journey Kiss will kill. I have to go into Barraskewda and hope Barraskewda can kill this, because Barraskewda should be able to. If it is Adamant, which mine isn't, it's actually Jolly, which is terrible. Don't ever use Jolly Barraskewda, because you can't kill Magearna. And that's going to be the game. And that's the game. So Vento wins, and that's GG. I'm able to kill the Magearna, but she pretty much just gives me the Blissey and also the Torn, and that's just gonna be that. So yeah, or not the Blissey, just the Torn, but yeah. I feel like Banded might have been better for Shifu. Again, again, I haven't really used Rain a whole lot in this gen. But I wanted to try it out and see if it was possible to use. And it is, but I just don't know how to get it to function, I guess. Or I guess really to choose my lead. Like, Pelipper should always be the lead, but Torn is just a massive threat to this team. So, I don't know, it's just tough to play around. But Ferrothorn was definitely not the lead for me. I think either Pelipper or even my own Torn would have been better as a lead. But Ferrothorn really didn't get me anywhere. I mean, it generally didn't get me anywhere. It didn't get me anywhere against Magearna or even Hippo or even the Kinkelder. So, and I mean, she would never lead Kinkelder, but yeah, that was just terrible for me. But yeah, so lessons to learn from this: don't run Jolly on Barraskewda. It's terrible. You don't kill anything. Lesson 2. Probably go with Bandit on her Shifu instead, because you want the most amount of damage with your Surging Strike and Rain. And then lesson number 3, don't lead anything. Don't lead, like, if you're running Rain, just lead your Rain Setter. That's probably the best thing. Especially if it's against opposing weather. Which is why I was kind of scared, because I wasn't sure if the Hippo was gonna be faster or not, or it was going to be slower or not, because if it was slower, then, she would have got the stand up, and I still would have been in a bad spot. So yeah, it's just tough to play around. I didn't really have a solid lead, in hindsight. Torn might have been the better one. Torn really might have been the better one, though. Or even her Shifu, anyway. Her Shifu wasn't that bad either. But yeah, that's going to be the game. And Ventil wins, and she becomes the champion of the first SSOU tournament in my Discord. So, again, congrats to her. She played well in all the games. Granted, again, the second game was pretty crazy. That was wild. The freeze really fucked me up. But again, despite that, I think I'm pretty happy with how the tournament went. Everyone played pretty well, and everyone was able to participate and, play to their best. So I do plan on doing more tournaments again in the future. And yeah, I actually do have different titles for the champions for each tournament and everything. So I'll probably have a champion for each gen that I'll be doing in my Discord. So for every tournament that I do. So yeah, I also plan on maybe doing some kind of Elite Four thing where the champions would actually play each other. I think that would be pretty sick. Just seeing how everything develops more, and as I get as more people come onto the channel, discover my Discord, which again is down below in the description on this. I would like to have more champions and more tournaments and such. I think that would be very fun to see. And maybe have a ranking system as well, kind of what Janvad's doing in his Discord. I would like to have something like that for how my for how like everyone performs in the Discord during tournaments and such. But yeah, again, I'm happy about how this went down, despite me losing. But it is what it is. At least I made it to finals in my own tournament. So I think that's pretty cool. I guess that's pretty cool. But again, I'm rambling on too much. This vid probably went on for 2 hours. But if you guys did enjoy the breakdown of the games, please make sure to leave a like and comment on the video, letting me know what your favorite Pokemon to build around is for a tournament. I would like to know that as well. Also, again, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to reach my 400 subscriber goal. And I would love it if you guys help me reach that goal. Yeah, so that's gonna be it, guys. It's gonna be it for the vid. So be safe, wash your hands, and I will see you in the next Pokemon Sword and Shield, Showdown Live, or whatever Pokemon related vid I do. Peace out.